last week. This weekend, the family traveled to Springfield to see Clay's mother and other relatives. TV 20's Ann Howard reports.
74-year-old Teresa Clay was all smiles as she sat with her son Dick and his wife Claudia for the first time in months. Dick Clay works for a Texas engineering firm in Kuwait, and 2 weeks ago he escaped with 34 Filipino workers. Clay used this forged Filipino travel document. He and the others traveled 1,300 miles from Kuwait through Iraq to Jordan in 5 days. They spent 2 days in a refugee camp like this one, with at least 30,000 people. When he got to the Iraqi border, Clay was apprehended and interrogated for 6 hours.
What made them finally decide to let you go?
Well, they believed I was Filipino.
They did?
I had the travel documents, and all the Filipinos, of course, got off the bus also and, you know, created a lot of havoc and saved my life. You know, they said, you know, either send us back to Baghdad or leave us go. And we're all Filipinos.
Clay had some strong words to say about Iraq's leader, Saddam Hussein.
The country has been overtaken by a 9th century barbarian. You know, he's raped and pillaged the country. Everything of material value has been taken out of the country. He's killed many Kuwaitis. I've seen people hung from street lights and seen decapitated heads on poles. Seen him pull Kuwaitis from automobiles and beat them with you know, rifle butts and kick them mercilessly.
Clay says the U.S. is doing exactly what it should in the Persian Gulf, but says Hussein must be stopped before he gains more support from Arab nations. And if that means war with Iraq?
You know, this country invaded a foreign country. You know, I mean, and, you know, 50 years ago, the world let Hitler invade 4 or 5 countries without doing anything about it, and then it caused 60 million people to die. If that's acceptable now, then how many people will die eventually?
Clay will be working out of his company's office in Houston until January, when he takes an assignment in Southeast Asia. Ann Howard, TV 20 News, Springfield.
Richard Clay is an Ellettsville resident who has traveled the world, working as an electrical engineer in Korea, Indonesia, Libya, and the Antarctic, until recently, Kuwait. There, he was a refinery manager supervising hundreds of Filipino and Indian workers for the M.W. Kellogg Company. After Iraq invaded Kuwait, life in the occupied country grew increasingly hazardous. It was then that Dick Clay and dozens of Filipino friends and co-workers began a courageous escape from Kuwait to Amman, Jordan. The escape included a harrowing bus trip across the desert, 3 days in Baghdad, and a stay at a refugee camp. Dick is my guest in the studio. Thank you for being here, Dick. Before we went on the air, we were talking about when they're going to make the television movie of the Dick Clay story, because it really is an incredible story. Start at the beginning. You were in Kuwait, right?
I've been working in Kuwait for 2.5 years. We had 2 maintenance contracts with the Kuwait National Petroleum Company.
And then the invasion?
The invasion occurred about 2 o'clock in the morning, I understand now, on Thursday morning, the 2nd of August. I knew that something was wrong about 5 o'clock in the morning when 2 jets flew by my flat and fired missiles at a communications microwave tower.
When did you know you were in danger, that it wasn't a good idea to be seen on the streets of Kuwait and that sort of thing?
Well, actually, not until Saturday. Still on Friday, the refinery management had requested that we have people in the refinery. They were shutting down processes, and so I had people working until Saturday, through Saturday, as a matter of fact. And when everybody was locked into the refinery, I had almost 200 people that were kept in the refinery. Overnight, 30 of these people were actually bused to Baghdad, 22 Indians and 8 Filipinos. Wow. And Iraqi technicians were brought back in. I was going into the refinery on Saturday morning myself, but one Palestinian and one Egyptian that also worked for me had been to the refinery, came came out to the labor camp where I was at about 7 o'clock in the morning and told me not to go in the refinery because the Iraqi military were looking for me at that point already.
They were looking for you specifically?
Yes, because they knew I was American and was, running a pretty large maintenance
I guess
operation.
my question was going to be, at what point did you know you were in danger? But I guess that would be it.
That's right.
Yeah. And what did you do did you hide then? I mean, did you?
No, I stayed at the labor camp all day, until I wanted to find out what was going on at the refinery. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I also had Egyptians that worked for me, Arabic-speaking people. And the Egyptians were allowed to leave the refinery, and that's when I found out, of course, that the other employees weren't allowed to leave.
You didn't immediately decide you had to get out of Kuwait, though, did you? I mean, did you kind of wait to see how things would develop?
You could still travel around at that time. The Kuwaitis, they were having a pretty rough time. They had checkpoints and set up, and Kuwaitis, they would anybody in a dish dash or the Arab attire, they would yank them out of cars, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, they'd beat them down to the ground, hit them with rifles, and kick them, put the boots to them, everything, and then take their vehicles and drive them off.
And you were seeing this kind of thing happening?
Yeah, I've seen several instances of that.
Yeah.
But Westerners, they just flag you right through the checkpoints, and also the subcontinent, sub-Asian continent nationals that were working in Kuwait.
But they were still looking for you at this time?
Yes, that Saturday night, I didn't stay in my, I stayed with a friend of mine, American, and his wife. I stayed with these people for 3 days. I was going to, I was going to work every day, or at least to our labor camp and to our head office, which, wasn't located in the refineries.
Right.
For the first, Saturday, say for 3 days. At that point in time, they started digging in troops, out around where our labor camp was. Things were starting to get worse. When they said that they were going to pull out of Kuwait, we had that word there also over BBC. But of course, we seen troops and tanks and armored personnel carriers, the roads that were crowded with them headed towards Saudi Arabia. And the only thing going out of Kuwait was all the money and all the new automobiles and everything of material value. Mm-hmm. That was what was going towards Iraq. And even we had CNN also, so, we even seen on CNN where they loaded up a couple tanks.
Yeah.
Those tanks were Kuwaiti tanks.
So they weren't leaving Kuwait?
Yeah. No, they had no intentions of leaving Kuwait. This guy was going all the way to the Arab Emirates, if he hadn't been stopped.
You knew you were in danger of being taken and finding, and when did you decide that you had to leave?
Well, after about 5 days, they started putting up checkpoints, and all the indications were that Westerners were going to be apprehended. So we knew it was going to become very serious. We were in contact with the American embassy. After about 5 days, I moved into another building also. I moved into a building with, there were actually 4 buildings, probably about 200 Westerners. But after about 5 days, I was every day, looking, for a way to get out of Kuwait. Saudi Arabia is only 55 miles away, from where we were.
Yeah.
So I had one Armenian and Palestinian that spoke fluent Arabic, of course, and I used to ride down to the Minigish oil field every day looking for a rig road or, a camel path, anything that we could get down to that Saudi border. And under the guises that we were going to one of the rigs out there, rig 142, which was right at the Saudi border, we would be able to get through some troops, and 2 or 3 times we had them, 2 or 3 of them riding with us. We'd give them Cokes and cigarettes, and they were just soldiers, and they I just kept my mouth shut, and these guys talked and had the Iraqi radio on with all the the station with all the propaganda. Well, we'd get so far, and then you'd run into their defensive or offensive lines, and there you'd run into officers, and they'd turn you back. They'd say, you can't go through here, you can go this way, you can go that way, or you can go back. that you can't go any further.
And is that when you decided, okay, well, I need a rather bold plan here. I need to, you know, get a document or something?
After I'd been going down into the desert, you know, to try to get out through Saudi Arabia, and when I found out that wasn't going to be possible, I'd found out from Filipinos that that all the Filipinos didn't have passports. You know, some companies, either because you know, the management had fled, or because it might have been burned down or something. These people didn't have access to their passports, so the Filipino embassy was issuing a one-time passport or travel document to people that didn't have passports. What I had told my people was just to try to buy one for me underneath the table. You know, I had passport pictures at our head office, so I had them pick up a couple passport pictures, and they tried to do that, but that was unsuccessful. You know, they couldn't find anybody that would sell them a travel document. But they were able to pick up blank copies of you know, travel documents. So they brought 4 or 5 blank copies, you know, to the flat. I had 2 men that I knew were very good graphics illustrators. You know, I hired all these people in the Philippines, and I knew their backgrounds and what their skills were. These 2 men were at the Philippine embassy. You know, they were in a makeshift camp there, waiting for some transport to Iraq and then Jordan. I moved them into one of the flats there in the building I was in, and put them to work, making the stamps, and they did it, you know, from a real document that had all the stamps on it.
And they actually carved it out. I think the newspaper article said they used a rubber
shower
sand.
clog.
Oh,
you know, they took a shower clog and cut out pieces of it, and then of course made it very smooth, and then etched into the rubber, you know, the necessary stamps.
When did you say, okay, now it's time to go?
On the 25th of August, they surrounded the American embassy, the Japanese embassy, the British embassy, and I think maybe the French embassy too, but those 3 for sure. They surrounded them with tanks. They cut off the water and electricity on the 25th at the British embassy. On the 26th, they did the same thing at the American embassy. Also on the 26th on BBC, there was a report that they put out an edict that anybody that would help Westerners would be hung, any Arabic-speaking people. Also, any Westerner that tried to escape would be sentenced to life imprisonment, or hung, you know, if found to be a spy, you know, if you didn't have proper documents on you. That was on the 26th. So on the 26th, we had already had plenty of food stored up. The documents, we had them, they were finished on the 25th. I actually made 4 sets of documents, 1 for me and 3 other people that I was staying with.
Didn't happen,
2 Britons and 1 American. Not really for them to use like I was going to use, but in the event that you know, the Iraqis came into the building, they could show them that document. And most of these guys can't even read. If they see something that looks official, maybe it would give them a few hours, or maybe they'd leave them there without apprehending them. You know.
But you decided to go.
Yeah, well, I had planned to go. You know, we had 80 gallons of petrol, had about 150 kilos of, about 150 pounds, 75 kilos of rice, a lot of canned vegetables and canned meats.
You needed transportation.
Well, on the 26th, the afternoon of the 26th, I sent out four guys to steal a bus. You know. They did it about 2 blocks away because they were only gone about 45 minutes. I asked them where they got the bus, and they just says right here in Apple Halifa.
Whoops! Could you go farther away? And you got them. You and who else on the bus?
There was myself and 23 others at that time. There was 5 women and 18 men. The 18 men worked for me.
Now, the scary thing is that you don't look Filipino. I mean, you had Filipino papers, and you were with Filipino people, but you don't look Filipino, right?
Well, you know, I didn't really expect anybody to believe I was a Filipino, a full-blooded Filipino, if you would. You know, I expect them to believe that I was a mestizo Filipino, that my mother was Filipina and my father was a Westerner.
Yeah.
And that's the story and the guys that I, that I tried to use and did use and I guess was successful.
And you owe a lot to these Filipino friends on the journey because didn't they do some protecting of you or keeping you on the bus and passing out your papers and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, what we'd do at the checkpoints and at the Iraqi-Kuwaiti border, when we got there, two Filipinos, they'd collect everybody's passports and travel documents and go out and go to the customs officer and he'd then just stamp everything. Every once in a while they'd stick their head in, but nobody really came and went through the bus. A couple times they had everybody just, flag their passport or document, but they were busy. There's a lot of people, going across these borders. From Kuwait to Iraq is about 90 miles to Basra, and just the the flow of people trying to go towards Iraq, but the incoming traffic with all the military tanks and things, because that was coming, and then just sheer numbers of military, Iraqi military on the highways trying to flag down transport, because these people, I don't know where they were trying to go, whether they were trying to get from to where they were sleeping, or if they were trying to get someplace for recreation or what, but the highway was just completely filled up with them for about 70 miles.
Before we run out of time, quickly go through the stages of this incredible journey. You're on the bus, and where were the places that you stopped before you actually got back to Ellisville, I guess you would say?
Okay, well, we left Kuwait. When we got into Iraq, we were in Basra for about an hour and a half because we took a wrong turn and almost went to Iran.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Instead of Baghdad, but it took us about an hour and a half to get the proper directions to get back on the highway. That time it was very late at night. Between Basra and Baghdad, we lost the left rear wheel of the bus. I had one car with us also. I had 4 Filipinos in it, in the car. When we lost the wheel of the bus, we found that we weren't going to be able to repair it, so I actually had to leave the people from the bus with the bus, and I got into the car, and we went on to Baghdad. This was about 6 o'clock in the morning. We got to Baghdad about 11 o'clock in the morning. We were still some 200 miles away from Baghdad. When we got to Baghdad, I spent all day going from Filipino embassy to the Filipino refugee camp there, which was about a kilometer away, trying to find somebody that knew where we could, get in touch with a travel agent or somebody that had a bus or something that we could send back to pick up the people that were stranded.
Yeah.
We finally were able to find a travel agent that had a minibus and sent that minibus back to pick these people up. That was late in the afternoon, 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. After we did that, then I had 2 of the Filipinos that were with me rent some rooms in a hotel. This hotel, all the embassies are in the same locale. Okay. This hotel was right on Main Thoroughfare and about a block away from the American Embassy. It's a pretty nice hotel that they went in and rented 3 rooms at that time. They went up, checked the rooms out, opened them up, and came down. I was in the car waiting. We took all the luggage that we had, and I just carried a suitcase and went into the elevator and on up to the room.
Why did you stay in Baghdad 3 days?
Because we needed we didn't have a bus at that point. All we had was a car, and that car we couldn't take any further than Baghdad because it was Kuwaiti registered, and you couldn't get travel documents to go any further than Baghdad.
But you got a bus.
Yeah, so we were looking for transport, and originally I didn't want to go to Jordan because, during this 27 days, on BBC, CNN, everything, you heard about the problems at this Jordanian border. So we tried to get a bus that would take us to the Turkish border, but the travel agents, bus companies couldn't get the proper documentation from the Iraqis to travel to Turkey. The only place that they could go is to Trabil, which is the Iraqi border that borders Iraq with Jordan through this 70-kilometer neutral zone.
You rented a bus then?
Yeah, I was able to, we were able to rent a bus to take us down to the Iraq-Jordanian border. Found some more people that worked for my company at the Baghdad refugee camp, Philippine refugee camp near the Filipino embassy.
So you're on a bus and now you're headed toward the border.
Yeah, we left on that third day, we left about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Rocky bus driver, we picked up, now we had 36 people that worked for the company that I do. And there were 18 women there that were in this camp by themselves in a makeshift tent, and I wanted to fill up the bus, and they told me about these women there, and I said, well, tell them we'll give them a ride down there.
Do you think of yourself as a hero? You did some pretty heroic things here. I mean, how many people have asked you that, and what do you say?
I think I was just trying to get out of Dodge.
Get out of Dodge, yeah, I guess you were being the most practical way you possibly could. Were you scared?
No, I don't think you think of being scared. I think that, all you think about is, trying to get out of there. It certainly wasn't acceptable to be there.
You had a pretty scary incident at the border then, didn't you?
Yeah, after we got to the border, again, 2 Filipinos took everybody's travel papers, passports to the customs officer. They actually stamped them, gave them back to him, and they got back on the bus and gave everybody back their documents, and the bus went right up to the border gate. That's when one Iraqi officer came aboard, told everybody to hold up their passports and travel documents, and then walked all the way to the back of the bus and started looking at everybody with their travel documents. I was about halfway back from the front of the bus, and when he got to me, of course, I handed him my travel document, and I have a little anchor tattoo on my hand.
Yeah, you do, right there. Yeah.
And he seen that and looked at me and smiled and asked if I was a Marine rather than a Filipino, and I told him no, I was Filipino. And he said yalla, which in Arabic means get up, get off, get out of here. Get up off the bus, so I got up, and I didn't actually get off the bus at that time. He was still looking at people's documents. I walked up towards the front of the bus and stopped when he got up there, and took me over to a portable building right at the border gate.
6 hours they detained you?
Yeah, on my knees.
On your knees for 6 hours?
Yeah, had me on my knees and interrogated me, him and 2 other officers that where they came from, I don't know, but they drove up there, and then one Iraqi in civilian clothes also after about 3 hours of the interrogation.
Yeah. So how did you get out of that?
Well, I just answered the questions they were at. They asked me, what's your name, where you're from, who's your mother, who's your father, where did you go to school, have you ever been to America, that type of thing over and over again. And of course, I told them that my mother was Filipino, and she was from Batangas. I was born in Batangas City, Batangas in the Philippines.
You had to keep with that story pretty carefully, didn't you?
I gave them an address in Metro Manila that where I live now, and told them that even one of my nieces, worked in Kuwait, was, with this group of people, and the Filipinos also, when they took me from the bus, they all got off the bus, made the bus driver take all the luggage off the bus right there at the gate, and caused a lot of confusion.
You owe a lot to these Filipino friends, don't you? I mean, they...
Yeah, well, I know these people for 2.5, 3 years, and I hired all these people, in the Philippines, and they worked, we worked together for almost 3 years, so,
So you were all helping each other, essentially.
Sure, and they knew me very well, and I know them very well.
Tell the incredible incident, I believe I read this in an article too, but of what happened when they actually said, okay, you can go.
Okay, well, after this, about 6 hours of interrogation, what they ultimately did is they left it up to the officer that took me from the bus. The other 2 officers kind of washed their hands with it.
The one who thought you were a Marine.
Yeah, said, well, he could, possible that he is a Filipino, so they left it up to him. That was really after about 4 hours, and after about 2 more hours, he told me to get up and said, Ricardo, come, and
what was your Filipino name, Ricardo?
Ricardo Errazo Clay.
Yeah.
So he waved his hand for me to get out of, come out of the portable building, and which I did. He walked me across the border, gave me back the travel document, shook my hand, and said, "Yalla, Marine."
Marine.
Like that,
Called you
and
Marine.
smiled.
Yeah. So he, whatever he believed, there's an indication there that. Yeah.
And from that point, then, when you're across the border, you're still not into Jordan. There's 70 kilometers before you get to the Jordanian border. And in the newspapers, they call that no man's land. What it is actually a neutral zone. The Iraqis have access to it, and the Jordanians have access to it. At any rate, we got transport that was supposed to take us to the Jordanian border, but at about 20 kilometers into the neutral zone, there was a checkpoint and barricades, and we were flagged by Jordanian military people into this refugee camp there. Two Filipinos, the first night I was there, the two Filipinos were able to find an American with Save the Children, one of the relief organizations there, and he took me across the border as a relief worker across the Jordanian border the following day.
Terrific. Yeah.
So that's how I got out. When I got to Amman, which is about 200 miles away from Ruashid, which is the border where you cross at Jordan.
Is that when you decided to go back?
Well, when I got to, all my people were still there, that worked with me, and of course these women too.
Yeah.
As soon as I got to Amman, at the border, I'd contacted. There were Americans, from the embassy, State Department at that border on the Jordanian side. This Jim Nuttall, he knew where these people were.
He's the guy with Save the Children.
Yeah.
Jim Nuttall. Yeah.
He got me with them, and they got my American passport stamped, with entry into Jordan, and contacted the State Department, my employer, and my wife. To let them know I was out and okay. They sent a bus after these people. Of course, they told me that they can only bring out the men that worked for Kellogg. That's all that they were authorized to
bring out.
Guarantee, transport for and to bring out. See, to bring people out of there, the Jordanian government requires a guarantor. That's
A sponsor, somebody they belong
with. A sponsor or guarantor
with
that's going to take care of them while they're in the country, and then make sure that they do leave the country.
And that didn't include the women.
Right.
Right.
So the bus went down, and only 24 of these guys came out. 12 of them stayed because, they were scared, they feared, with all the panic and rioting and everything in that camp that we were in, they wouldn't leave them women by themselves, and I could understand that. So the following day when the bus arrived and I found out that everybody wasn't on the bus.
So again, you decided to do something.
Yeah, I came across that border with just a piece of paper, that, said I was a relief worker. So I had met the, Jim Nuttall's director, the director there from Save the Children in Amman. It's a lady, very nice lady. Those people are doing a great job there, by the way. But at any rate, I asked her for, for one of these travel documents to get back into the neutral zone. And I had the 23 ladies' names and had those typed up in Arabic. I had 3 Palestinian friends that also had gotten out of Kuwait that had contacted me at the hotel the first day that I arrived in Amman. And I had them rent a bus for me again in Amman. And so on Wednesday, I don't know what the date was, 5th of September, I think, maybe, or 4th or the 5th. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we loaded up a couple cases of beer and iced it down, and 3 or 4 cases of Coca-Cola.
This is not a picnic.
Iced it down, and about 150 Jordanian dinars worth of food, bread, meat, sandwich, meat, canned foods, and drove back down to Ruashid, which is the Jordanian border before you get into the neutral zone. When we got there, we give the customs people and the Jordanian military, give them soft drinks and beer and sandwiches, and showed them our documents saying that we were with a relief agency and relief workers, and that we were going into the neutral zone to pick up these 23 Filipino nurses that were needed in Amman.
Do you feel like you've done something exceptional? I mean, you're back and you get all this attention, and it's.
No, Not really. You know, I'm just, you know, I'm certainly glad to be out of Kuwait, and I would like to see everybody else that's there get out, because the situation is very desperate for those people, and I know that a lot of those people, you know, I mean, they were in dire straits, you know, when I left, you know, I mean, just from not only physical, but, you know, mental, you know, fatigue.
Yeah.
But certainly the Filipinos, I couldn't leave them there. They saved my life, and I wasn't about to leave anybody there, you know, so
I hope to, yeah.
I think that's just tit for tat.
Well, it is an incredible story, and we're very glad you shared it with us. And it's as good a story as any television movie of the week. I guess better because I know you and it's real. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, this has been a very special edition of Studio 6. I'm Diane Ward. Thank you for joining us.
Studio 6 is available for home video. For information on purchasing VHS copies of Studio 6, write WTIU or call Monday through Friday during normal business hours.